G'day guys, how you going? Back in the shed today with the Everyday Explorer, and we're working on the 4Jj1 engine here behind me. As you know, we're putting this into an 80 series Land Cruiser. This is going to be one of the first ones done in the country, so I look forward to showing you the process right here on this channel. And thank you very much to all the subscribers out there and the likes and all the comments over the last couple of months. It's gone a long way to build my enthusiasm and get me really, really keen to get this thing on the road. And as a thank you, I want to take you out on a four-wheel drive trip. Unlike a lot of YouTubers here on the internet where you never get to see the cars again, or you've got to go to a 4x4 show to see them, I actually just want to take you on a casual camping four-wheel drive trip up one of the beaches here in southeast Queensland. So if you're interested, scan the little QR code here or click in the link in the description below and put your email address in, and I'll invite you on a trip once it is done. Yes, keen to see you guys out on the tracks and meet you all that have been following along with the build. I am going to be traveling around in this car, so I'm sure I'll be in a state near you where we can go out for a little bit of a wheel, and I want to get to know you guys a little bit more. So again, this QR code dangling about here, click on that, pull your phone out, scan it, put your email address in, and I'll simply invite you out on a trip next time as soon as this car is finished. So anyway, let's get stuck into the build because we've got an exciting one here today where we're actually going to be reinstalling all the really cool performance parts here on the 4J, and I want to show you how to do all those bits and pieces. So stay tuned, hope you enjoy. As I mentioned, we're going to be installing a lot of the Performance 4J parts here and reinstalling all the stuff that came off of this engine. But first I want to show you how we got to this position, because here are all of the parts that came out of this engine. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't just come out of the box like this. You've actually got to pull the engine down. Now, I didn't film a lot of this because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't want to try and explain something that I didn't really know. But I will provide another link down in the description as well to the 4Jj1 workshop manual. It is really, really easy to actually follow that along. Make sure you follow all of the steps and then just start pulling the engine down step by step, and then label everything and put it out on the table. So that's all I've done so far. Dropped the oil out of it, done all that sort of stuff. So I want to show you some of the cool stuff that I've done and some of the upgrades that we're doing to this engine as well, because as you know, we're going to be punching some pretty cool power numbers out of this car. So yeah, I'll show you what I've got to put in and then we'll go from there. All right, I'm going to show you the first couple bits on the bench here. So what I've got is MRX Performance head bolts. So these are manufactured by ARP, one of the best head bolt manufacturers in the world. There's 18 bolts in here. They're upgraded torque yield for the engine, which is going to be absolutely fantastic for holding the head down. I think these are an absolute must, especially when you're trying to aim for some really big boost numbers and power numbers like we're going to do. So great upgrade. And then this one here, which is the Ross Racing Performance metal jacket external crank damper. So what this is, it's fluid filled and externally balances the front of the crank, which is extremely important. Now, the reason why it is so important, especially on these 4Jj1 engines, is because they're known for snapping cranks. Not that they're weak or anything like that. It's just the way that the engine is set up and the torsional twist that can be in some of these main cap bearings. So that there externally balances it on the front of the crank. So any movement that's outside of square, it should be able to take the harmonics out of the crank and help with those snapping moments, especially at higher horsepower and higher torque number figures. Now I've got one more extremely important piece of equipment, which is this bit here. So what this is called is a crank girdle. So what this does is it bolts all of these main cap bearings together. And then what that essentially does is sort of make sure that these are all in square and they're all bolted to each other. Because what can happen, and especially on the 4J, is there's a lot of torsional force in this crank, especially as it's spinning around as the engine's pistons are firing up. So what these will do is it bolts them all together and there's no way they can twist or warp because they're all bolted together, therefore keeping all this nice and square. So this should help exponentially when it comes to the really high horsepower application that we're going to do. If you want one of these crank girdles, jump on the website, 4Jj1 girdle by Modified Explorer. This guy's a legend. He'll absolutely help you out and get this one to your door so you can build your high horsepower 4J engine. But I have a dilemma when it comes to this girdle. I'm using a 4x2 motor purely because that's what I had available, and the upper sump actually starts to foul on some of the corners of this girdle. So I've got to pull out a grinder today, and as you know how much I love grinders, But I do have to massage the side of this girdle just to take a little bit off to make sure that upper sump can go on down nice and flush. So that's going to be the first job here today. So let's pull the grinder out and get stuck into that. All right, so I've put, well, normally if you had this problem, you'd take this off, but I have already torqued these bolts up to yield. And if you need to know the number, Modified Explorer recommends 200 Newton meters for these main cap crank bearing bolts. So I've already cranked this down to yield, so I don't want to unbolt this and then put it on the bench to do the grinding. So I'm going to do the grinding on the engine, which isn't always a good idea, but it should be okay for what I'm going to do. So anyway, let's kick on. Make sure you put your safety goggles on and off we go. I'm just going to cut the corner off this. All right, I'll show you what I've done here with the girdle. I've just notched the backside here off. That seems to work really well now with the sump. I've sort of just taken the corner off of this one here as well. I'll hit them with a little Y wheel and smooth that one up. But my next dilemma now is actually this bolt here. What it's actually doing is it's fouling on the oil pickup sort of around here somewhere. I don't want to remove it and just cut it off because there's only one bolt here, and then this is only press fit into the here. So I want to keep some sort of bracket. So this is a little bit tricky. What I'm going to do is measure it up. I'll do the cut and then I'll show you guys exactly where to cut in case you're doing this girdle at home. So I'll measure that one up now and I'll come back to you.
A few moments later.
All right, so here's the reference video. I've gone and notched out that sort of oblongy squarey thing. Now what that will do, will clear this third bolt here to make it nice and neat. So I'll show you again. For those at home, you do need to notch this out. There's still a little bit of metal there. That's enough to hold it. It's a very light little bracket, so perfect, job done. Awesome. Now when you lift the upper sump then on, everything should line up beautifully. However, mine does not. So I think it's good to reference. There's a couple more bits of things you need to notch out. See this little bit here to cover those bolts. This one's a little bit questionable. I actually wasn't supposed to knock those all the way through, but the bolt tops there were actually quite tall, so I sort of had to. I've looked at the gasket and it should look quite nice once it's done. So yeah, got to do that. So a little bit more work to do with the grinder. I've notched a bit off of the girdle and stuff, so it's all looking quite good, but I just can't get all the bolts to sort of line up with their holes with this two-wheel drive sump. All right, so what I've done is I've got it on there, lined it all up. What I've done is I've notched away a heck of a lot more out of the girdle just to sort of make it work with this two-wheel drive sump, but I'm not happy with it. It's not lining up perfectly at the front here. The bolt holes aren't lining up, so I just don't want things to be out of whack or twisted. So what I'm gonna do is actually go away and try and find a four-wheel drive upper sump and lower sump and put that one on. It should fit nice and snug. There is another side benefit to that. I believe they've got a better clearance on the bottom here, so they're actually a little bit lower, and the top of the lower sump pan is a bit higher, I guess, in the engine bay, which will be good later on down the track when I'm looking at the wheel articulation and the front axle coming up and potentially touching this. That's what I was a little bit worried about with this one, because when I test fitted it, there was a fair bit of room there, but I probably needed to have extended the bump stops just to make sure it didn't hit. So look, there will be a side benefit to this as well, which means more flex, a little bit better off-road in the end. So yeah, look, I might leave the episode there. I've been going a couple of hours notching away at this thing and I'm not super happy with it. So I'm gonna leave it, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna go try and find a four-wheel drive sump. So thank you very much for watching this far along in this episode. Again, I'll drop the QR code here if you want to put your information in and come forward driving with me once this car's built. But if not, see you on the next episode.